All right. Welcome back. We have one last little section here, which is just to understand if there are any sort of emergency gaps that need to be filled in terms of information coming into the panel, coming into the full group. So let me turn it over to Alex to help facilitate that. I've already seen in chat, Alex, a note from Jeff that his group has one.
Okay, thank you. And I know my group has one as well. So as has been stated, one person will kind of present the gap to the large group, and just as you did in small groups, we'll take a vote, but with the raised hand feature this time to see if there's a threshold of half of you that identify that as a large gap that we need to fill. So let's go first to the representative from Jeff's group, and then anybody else who has a proposal, please use the raise hand feature.
So I think that might be me. This is Jose. So one of the things that we identify is the executive director of the organization called Beyond Toxics. And one of the reasons for this is that there are neighborhoods in the city where more multi-dwelling units exist that are more toxic. And what I mean by that is that because of old industry, it wasn't cleaned up as effective, or because of current industry, when there's wind or when there's rain, runoff or water, for a variety of reasons, those neighborhoods are less healthy. While the neighborhoods with where multi-single family homes are the norm and there's very little middle housing, those are the healthier neighborhoods. And so the difference here is between someone who can go out and play in their yard without thinking about it versus those who have to think about when they can go out and play on their yard. And that understanding the differences, not just about affordability and sustainability, but that this is about health disparities as well. That would be key for this panel to understand how neighborhoods are segregated, not just by diversity, but also by healthy livability areas.
Okay, thanks for bringing that to the group, Jose.
And I think, sorry if I can just step in really fast, Alex, just because I'm watching the time here and I see there's a few of these that are going to have to happen. I think that we only really have time for the person who's presenting like that to present, and then we'll have to take a quick vote to see whether that is something that we need to fill next time.
Yeah, I agree.
To get through everything.
Okay, thank you, Lynn. All right, so let's move right into the vote. Raise your hand as your little blue participant raise hand button if you agree that this is enough of a gap that we need to fill it with our remaining time together. And we'll give folks, let's see, I'm gonna set my timer just for 30 seconds here, just to make sure everybody has a chance to vote. And I will let you know when the cutoff happens, and then a couple of our moderators will count up those votes while we move on to the next proposal.
If you absolutely cannot find that raise hand, hold your hand up and keep it up, and that'll help those of us who are trying to count.
You have 5 seconds left. Okay. All right, so leave your hands up for Jeff and Awab to count, please. But now we'll move on to the next proposal here as they do that for us. So just because I know from my small group, I'm going to invite Marissa to present next.
Yeah, our group proposed that we might be able to find a financial expert, someone who might be able to explain the possibilities in terms of subsidies and incentives for both developers and potential home purchasers, and what might be possible for us to suggest within the scope of HB 2001.
Okay, thanks, Marissa. And Jeff, are you ready for us to move on to our second round of voting here?
Yes, but
Okay.
people need to take their hands down.
Yeah, so everybody lower your hand and now raise your hand if you agree or if you concur that this is a gap that Marissa has raised. Enough of a gap to meet this threshold of bringing somebody else to the panel. Okay. I'm going to do that same thing and just give 20 seconds for everybody to get their hand up. And while that's happening, who else has a gap proposal for the group? Can you say something out loud or put your name in chat?
Francisco from my group had one.
Okay. Thanks, Amanda. And the 20 seconds are up on that vote. So let's move to Francisco. So Francisco, if you could just share a little bit about the gap that your group identified.
Oh, sorry, I was muted. So pretty quickly, as a group, we came up with asking the question on how do we go about to change those regulations or limitations for building these duplexes or multifamily units. Is there something that we as individuals can do, or what are the ways, or who can answer those questions? How do we go about trying to change the code? I hope that makes sense.
Okay, thanks, Francisco. So now let's everybody lower your hand and then raise it if you agree that this kind of meets the threshold for a glaring omission that the panel needs to hear about. And I'll give it 20 seconds on the clock. And is there anybody else who still needs to present?
Yes, this is Robert, and we have came up with two actually from our group. Rosita and I wanted to say something about that.
Okay, I think we've had time for raising hands, so why don't you go ahead, Robert? Okay,
my point is on ownership of properties in Eugene. Who owns the properties? And I know I've talked to Lynn about this, but the statistics of who owns properties goes to affordability, sustainability, and accessibility of middle housing. What are the groups that own houses in Eugene? Are they individuals? Are they groups of individuals, companies, corporations, developers, and real estate traders? The profile of ownership will dictate the economics of affordability of middle housing. And if we are to look at affordability over time, not just the now, not just the 10 years from now, but over 30, 40, 50 years, and being able to sustain the price of middle housing, then we need to understand what are the ownership profiles.
Okay, thanks, Robert. And everybody lower your hand, raise it again if you concur with this gap. I realize we're at 8:30 and I think we just have one more, so we'll get through this as quickly as we can. Thank you all for hanging in there. Thank you for counting, Jeff and Awab.
Just really fast, if I could have Amanda put the link to the survey in chat while we're doing this, just so that can be done. Thanks.
Thank you. Yeah. Okay, so let's now feel free to keep your hand up for Robert's proposal and let our folks count those up as Rosita, you share our, I believe, final proposal. And you are on mute, Rosita.
I'm sorry, yeah, my thing was educating and about educating the public, because we've learnt a lot by being on the panel, but otherwise, how, as the general public, people of Eugene, know anything about middle housing and how it's badly needed, and can we reach that on some kind of media, like if it was on the radio or if there was something online that people can access easily so that they can learn about these things?
Okay, thanks, Rosita. So everybody now lower your hands and raise them if you think this meets the threshold for a glaring omission. And as we're doing that, can I just confirm, were there any other proposals that need hearing? Okay, great. So with that, let's see if everybody could just leave their hands up for 20 to 30 seconds, stay in the meeting for long enough for Jeff and Awad to make sure we get an accurate vote count. But as that's happening, I think I will pass it back to Lynn to just end us for the night. Thank you all.
Sure. Thanks so much, Alex. I know that was really fast. We're sort of at the end of this period here, and just want to sort of set up how we're gonna work with what you've given us just there. So it's a great thing this is recorded. So Sarah Giles, who does the liaison with potential presenters, will see this. We won't be able to give, well, probably not all of those things are people that will be able to be found. And even if they are, they will not be able to present for, the full length, but we will do our best in order of how many votes they got to satisfy each of those as best we can. So we'll do our best over the next week, and feel free to follow up with us if you want to add any detail to those suggestions. And that'll just add and sort of assist us with trying to satisfy them. So we'll do the best we can, but also just know we're sort of at the tail end here, so it's not going to be as lengthy an amount of time for whoever this might be as it has been in the past. With that, I was just in the process group earlier, and they wanted to make clear just how much this make clear how much the surveys, they're looking at the surveys. So and noted that some of the surveys have gotten maybe half the panel responding, some of them gotten almost everybody, and noted to me that that may depend on my performance here at the end and whether I mention it or not, and in what way, and whether we put the link down in the chat. So please fill out the survey. Your fellow panelists are paying attention, and so are we, and hopefully responding to concerns that you put in there. I think with that, unless anybody has any last minute things to add, thank you so much for staying on for a few more minutes here so we could finish that. And